your textbook has a pretty good, historical description of, the efforts to control access to drugs in this country. But just a really quick, review here. In 1906, actually, in the United States, this was the first effort to sort of, control access to drugs. This was the time when the Pure Food and Drug Act was passed by Congress, which created the Food and Drug Administration. In 1914, the Harrison Act was passed because at this time, prior to the passage of this act, Coca-Cola was a mixture of, a lot of caffeine, right, from the cola nut, and a lot of cocaine from the coca leaf. There was an effort to sort of control access to some of these substances that had pretty powerful, effects on behavior and mood. I have up here, it's a little hard to see, but this is, if you go to Britain, you can still get something called Dr. J. Collis Brown's mixture, which contains codeine, and I think it's also morphine, a lot of pretty significant drugs, and it's still available over the counter. In this country, I think you need a little more of a prescription at this stage, and it dates back to the Harrison Act. Of course, our country, the United States, had quite an issue over alcohol. There was a significant temperance movement to try to ban, the use of alcohol, and it resulted, actually, in 1920 in the passage of the 18th Amendment to the U.S. Constitution, which banned, the sale and production of alcohol. This was ultimately, repealed. It was referred to as prohibition in 1933 with another amendment to the U.S. Constitution because as a result of the complete and utter ban, all sorts of speakeasies, came up, private stills, an entire criminal culture that was associated with the manufacture and sale of alcohol. In 1937, there was an effort to tax, right, marijuana, actually, which was being brought into the country initially. There was an effort to really control its, distribution and its use. This was actually declared unconstitutional in 1969, and at that time, it was replaced, actually in 1970, by what's called the Controlled Substances Act. And the Controlled Substances Act is the federal legislation that today sort of governs, the legality and the access to specific drugs. It set up a system of schedules and placed certain drugs in certain schedules. And Schedule 1 is where a lot of pretty illicit substances that are banned and even very difficult to obtain for research purposes are actually listed, including marijuana and hallucinogens, etc. And this is pretty much what governs the legality